In my exclusive one-on-one, Jay Johnson reflects on winning his second national championship at LSU. It's Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We are free, available wherever you get great podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. LSU on Monday returned to Baton Rouge national champions. The plane touchdown shortly after 2 p.m. Central, after everyone deplaned, got on the buses. They were back on campus at Alex Box Stadium right around 3 o'clock. A short time after that, I had a chance to visit with Jay Johnson by phone for about 10 minutes, time for which I am very grateful, and I would never, ever underestimate or be unappreciative of that situation, considering how many directions Jay Johnson, all these players are going to be pulled from the moment that final out is recorded until now, whenever they would like to just exhale and soak it all in. Jay Johnson doesn't have that luxury. He will have tons of media to do. There was a championship celebration to plan and execute, and he's got to start building the 2026 roster because you've got the MLB draft coming up here in a few weeks. You've got guys going off to summer ball. The transfer portal's open, and LSU is behind the 8 ball already because they've spent the last nearly 2 weeks in Omaha instead of hosting recruits on campus. But the best recruiting tool is winning a national championship, and LSU did that. All that to say, though, for Jay Johnson, having quiet moments are not plentiful at this point. So I was very grateful that he was able to give me a few moments on my radio show After Further Review. If you want to see the full interview or hear it, you can do that. Just search After Further Review on podcast or YouTube, and you'll see it right there. But one of the things that I asked Jay about was, and this is always very reflective, it's about the quiet moment. Indulge me here for a second, okay? Just indulge me. Take yourself back to Sunday afternoon, Sunday early evening when LSU records the final out. Chase Shore's on the mound, induces the 4-6-3 ground ball, Dickinson to Milam to Jones. LSU is the national champion. What do? You embrace your spouse, your kids, whatever the case may be, friends, you're high-fiving buddies. Maybe you're at the ballpark. You're jumping around. I did a 2.5-hour post-game show, jumped in my pool. You can watch that if you missed it. If you're an everydayer, shout out. Y'all were there for it. But a short time after your evening quiets down and you take a shower, you go to bed, you go to work, and then you're talking to your friends and buddies. But think about Jay Johnson. From the moment that final out is recorded, boom, it's pandemonium. It's coaches, it's players, it's the dog pile. Then it's immediately into the trophy presentation. Then they usher you to the postgame press conference, locker room with your team. There's video of Jay Johnson walking out of the locker room to the bus, and he's being sort of swarmed by fans asking for autographs. He's being so gracious, but then he's on the bus, and you're back to the team hotel. And then when you get to the hotel, there's just a mob of LSU fans there. And, like, when do you ever have a quiet moment? Like, maybe it's by the time you finally get to your hotel room, you can close the door and just sit and just go and just reflect. And I asked Jay Johnson what that first quiet moment was like.
Yeah. The best one is going back to the hotel and you're in the midst of chaos, which, as you know, when LSU wins a championship, the fans can bring and create chaos, the best kind you could possibly dream about. But then it's like, hey, we have to talk as a team. And then we kind of snuck back into the meeting room, and I just told him what it meant to me. And, it wouldn't have changed how I felt about them in terms of whether we won these last 2 games or not. But you know the deal. If you win it, you go down as forever. And I felt like these guys were worthy of that with how they handled this entire season. And I really wanted them to have that. And I wanted them to know that they accomplished that. And that was awesome. And then just getting back up to my room and, somebody put the trophy on my table, I just stared at it and I was like, kind of sweet, man. It's pretty awesome.
That's it. In his room with the national championship trophy on the table in his room and just looking at it and realizing that's awesome. What's interesting, though, here I'm saying like that when you win it, that is forever. That is immortality, which now 8 teams in LSU baseball history have, and this 2025 team is one of them. And I did ask Jay Johnson when he knew this team was capable of that. And it's interesting because remember, he has said about this team, and I completely agree with him, that one of the hallmarks of this team, aside from the dominant starting pitching, the ability to hit the clutch, the great defensive acumen, all that stuff, has been their ability to not get too high or too low. They've been very steady. They have responded in the face of adversity, and when they've had things go well, they haven't allowed it to allow them to get too high. It was a hallmark, really, of this entire LSU baseball season. I mean, even if you go to just you're losing the series to Texas and then coming back and run ruling ULL and then sweeping Mississippi State. It's like they always seemingly had the answer when things didn't go well. Even when they disappointingly lost a series at Texas A&M late in the season, what did they do? They're home against Arkansas, toughest series of the schedule, and you beat Arkansas 2 out of 3, and one of them was at 1:17 a.m. Even with all of the delays and the cancellations and all of the stuff with the weather this year, it never seemed to bother them. And so I asked you when he knew that was a characteristic of this team.
It was actually earlier than maybe you would think. So we lost game 2 of a 3-game series to Omaha. And it was a doubleheader because we moved it up to be a doubleheader because of we were getting rain the next day. And I walked in and I said something to them like, hey, one of the best players I ever coached, he said something to me. He said, you'll know what you have after you lose the first game in terms of how they respond. And I kind of threw that challenge on the team. And from that loss, we won 17 games in a row and did it in rather convincing fashion in most games. We did it in comeback fashion. And we had so many guys contributing to it. I would say probably during that time, this team built an immense amount of confidence. And whenever it got hard, so to speak, they just seemed to get a little harder and found their way through. And, you take a lot of pride when you win close games, and this is one of the best teams I've ever coached at winning close games.
That is a fact. David DeLucci of the SEC Network, a hat tip. I spoke to Luch on Monday as well. And David DeLucci shared a statistic with me, which is kind of incredible. In the championship series in Omaha, LSU's pitchers had a lower batting average against with runners on base than when there was nobody on base. Meaning it was harder to get a hit when there was traffic on the bases. They're out of the stretch. It's uncomfortable. That's when LSU's pitching staff had a lower batting average against. That's pretty remarkable. LSU's ability to score runs with 2 outs. I mean, the Ethan Fry double that tied the game at 1 in the championship game was with 2 outs. In game 1, the lone run was scored when Stephen Milam came up with, don't forgive me, that was a 1-out base hit. But in any event, the Derek Currio, his 2 RBI single in the 4th, which made it 5-1, was a 2-out single. LSU's ability to hit with 2 outs and come through in the clutch was really a hallmark not only of the season, but certainly of this run in Omaha in that national championship series. Something Jay Johnson talked about in his postgame press conference, which was absolutely floored me, was that Daniel Dickinson broke the hamate bone in his hand in the first game against Little Rock. I asked for some more clarification and context on that injury and how it all transpired. We're going to get to that. And Jay Johnson also compared the feeling of winning the first one in 23 and this one here in 2025. That's coming up on Locked On LSU, your team every day. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. Listen, I love FanDuel. I love to live bet. Sometimes international basketball, betting overs is something that I like to do for fun. Find your favorite thing to bet this time of year right now with FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, great. New customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. So open up the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. We talked about it on the post-game show. And if you're an everydayer, shout out, you heard the episode where we played some of what Jay Johnson had to say in the post-game press conference. But maybe the most stunning thing was the declaration that Daniel Dickinson's been playing with a broken hamate bone. LSU baseball fans know, of course, that's the bone that Warren Morris broke in his hand. It's the bone is sort of by your palm on the side of your hand. I talked to my buddy Ryan Terrio, former LSU shortstop, 8 years in the major leagues. And he said, Mike Fontenot, another former LSU Tiger, had that injury, the hamate bone. And he described it as getting stabbed in the hand every time you hit a ball. So the immense pain that Daniel Dickinson must have been feeling is incredible, but it also explains why Jay Johnson kind of did what he did. As Dickinson, who was one of your better hitters, hitting the top third of the lineup for most of the season, ended up the season batting 8th and bunting a lot. Well, it kind of explained it. And I asked Jay Johnson for a little more context around the injury.
Yeah, amazing, actually. I've had two players do this, and one of them got hurt in the 5th week of the season and never returned the entire season. And this dude broke it in the game. He hit 2 home runs, by the way, against Little Rock, and never missed a game. He didn't say anything about it the next day, the 12-0 win against Dallas Baptist. And the next morning, the game we lost to Little Rock, he came in. It's like, my hand's broken. It really, really hurts. But as long as you think I'm better than whatever the next option is, I will give you everything that I have. And we manipulated some things amazingly to where nobody knew. You know, we hit him down in the order, and I kept kind of creeping him down. And I'm sure the coaches were like going, "Thank you, like this is a really good hitter. You're bumping all the way down to the 8 hole." We bunted where we could, and maybe the biggest base hit of the tournament was the bunt single in the first game against Arkansas. With first and second one out. And somehow he found a way to get 5 hits in 5 games in Omaha. And that's all toughness. I mean, he's awesome. Like, when I think about the types of guys I want in LSU baseball uniforms, like Danny Dickens right at the front of that.
You got to realize how insane that is, right? The dude played with a broken hand. Now, one of the things, and shame on me, I didn't ask Jay, and I meant to. I had a note, but we were short on time. I wanted to know if it was the throwing hand or the glove hand. Curious how that might have affected his ability to play second base as well. But in any event, that is remarkable that Dickinson was playing with a broken hand. And yes, it does explain. Remember, one of the things we talked about in the championship game, remember the sequence when LSU went up 5-1 in the 4th inning. Remember, I'm looking at how it went. LSU led off the inning with a walk, a single, and then a hit by pitch. So the bases are loaded, right? And nobody out. And Stanfield comes up and gets the 2 RBI single. So it's 3-1. It's 3-1. Your 8 hole. Daniel Dickinson is coming up. So you got 2 on. It's first and second with nobody out. It's 3. You're already leading. You get the pitcher on the ropes. And they bunt Dickinson. It's not just that they bunted Dickinson to go second and third with 1 out. It's that they bunted Dickinson to get to Braswell, who doesn't have a hit in the College World Series. Like, you had to ask yourself the question, who do I trust more to get a hit? Is it Dickinson or Braswell? Well, conventional wisdom says it's Dickinson. Braswell hadn't had a hit in 8 games. Why would you give up Dickinson to get to Braswell? Well, now you know the answer. They were hoping maybe Braswell puts a ball on the ground to the right side, gets one in the air to the outfield, a sac fly, and God bless him, Braswell got one in the air. It just popped up on the infield. And so now you're 2 outs in that situation with second and third, a chance to blow the game open. And thank goodness Derek Curiel came up and did what he did all year. But yes, it explains so much. As Jay said, we try to hide it, but it's very clear now why they had Dickinson bunting so much over the last 8 games, because the guy had a broken bone in his hand. He couldn't swing a bat, which is amazing. One of the stories, as the lore of this team will grow, that's one that we will tell for a very long time, that Daniel Dickinson's out there playing with a freaking broken hand, helping lead LSU to a national championship. And, of course, the national championship is Jay Johnson's second at LSU. Second in the last 3 seasons, second in his 4 years in Baton Rouge. That makes him the fastest ever to get to 2 national championships at one school. The previous record was 8, so he literally halved that number, which is just remarkable. And I did ask Jay Johnson to compare winning it in 2023 and winning it on Sunday in 2025.
Yeah, they were very different. I will be honest. We were up 18-4 on Florida in the 9th inning. And it didn't hit me even that we were going to win it until Jordan Thompson made an unbelievable play for the first out in the 9th. And then I just got flooded with emotion. We did it. We're going to do it. And, I had the one experience where we were a base hit away in 2016 at Arizona and we didn't win and lost 2 one-run games in the finals. And so it was also a personal, 7-year journey back to that game and that time. And it was super emotional at the end of that one. And then this one, a little bit different. The tying run was at the plate. I got 2 guys fired in the bullpen. The top of their order, the leadoff hitter was on deck. And I'm thinking okay, if I make the move, where am I going to make the move? Is the defense set? Have we adjusted because Chase Shores is on the mound? I'm looking at the signal of what pitch we're calling. And then we turn a double play and we're national champions. So it was kind of it was 2 completely different experiences in the moment. And then, the time on the field immediately after the game is special. And it was awesome. And you're just looking around and I'm looking at Chris Stanfield in the face and Luis Hernandez and Danny Dickinson and the guys that have been here for 3 years, even Gavin Guidry didn't throw a pitch, but Chase Shores, Jared Jones. I mean, it's the best days of my life is what I would say are the best times of my life, getting to do that. And just a lot of gratitude for this team and 2 completely different experiences of how to win it. And it was almost awesome that it was so different.
It was dramatically different experiences. When LSU chased Jack Caggs early in the championship game on that Monday against Florida, and LSU got out to the big lead, the coronation was on at that point. It was just a matter. For the rest of the game was just a formality at that point. This was something that when LSU got up 5-1, it felt that way because you had Ianson going so good and you had Shores and Evans and literally anybody else you needed at your disposal to protect a 4-run lead against a team that really couldn't hit your pitchers. The stuff was too good. You would have had to have given it to them with walks and hit by pitch, and that didn't happen. LSU made them go earn it, and they couldn't. And so but he's right. The circumstance is still what it was. You had the tying run at the plate, and they were turning the lineup over, and you had to get it. And Shores, of course, induces the ground ball double play to end it. The first time, by the way, of any of LSU's 8 national championships that did end on a double play. Back in 1991, it was a grounder to Mook at third. In 93, it was a fly ball to Berrios and right was the final out. In 96, it was Warren Morris's home run. In 97, it was Doug Thompson's strikeout. In 2000, it was Cressy's base hit scoring Terrio. In 09, it was Lewis Coleman's strikeout. In 2023, it was Gavin Guidry's strikeout. And then, of course, the ground ball double play, the 4-6-3, Dickinson, Milam, Jones to win the national championship. So how many more does Jay Johnson have in him? Now, he wouldn't answer that question directly, and I wouldn't dare ask him for a prediction, but I did ask Jay Johnson why he loves this job so much. You'll hear that answer when we wrap up Locked on LSU, your team every day. I remember asking Jay Johnson earlier in his tenure at LSU, which is only 4 years old now, but I remember asking Jay Johnson earlier in his tenure about taking the LSU job. And he has said this many times. So it's not like it was something that he uniquely told me and only me. He's told lots of people this, that LSU is the only job for which he would have left Arizona. He had a great thing at Arizona. I mean, he took Arizona to the College World Series twice in 6 seasons. In his first year, they were in the finals. They won the first game. They were a win away from winning the national championship. And his last season at Arizona, they were in the College World Series. I mean, Scott Woodward and LSU's contingent famously went and interviewed Jay Johnson in Omaha at the College World Series before they hired him for the job. So I very much believe him that this is the only job that he would have left for. He's obviously a student of the game of college baseball, loves the game of college baseball, knows what Skip Bertman and the LSU dynasty in the 90s meant to this sport and has continued to mean to this sport. So I believe him. He has even said point blank on my show, he said, I wouldn't, like, if the New York Yankees called me, I wouldn't leave for the Yankees. Now, I understand there's a different part of that question. Like, would you even, if you're saying that literally, and I think obviously what he's speaking is hyperbolic, just to point out how much he loves this job and is not leaving. But the point being, would you even ever want to manage in the bigs? And that's not even the point. He's not. But a year ago, Texas did come calling. I don't know how much this is well known, but a year ago when David Pierce was fired and Texas was looking for a new head coach, and they ultimately landed on Jim Schlossnagle, they did pursue Jay Johnson. And Jay had a decision to make. And ultimately, he told Texas, who has more resources than LSU, more financial resources than LSU, no, that he was staying in Baton Rouge, despite the fact that Texas is paying Jim Schlossnagle more than Jay Johnson's making at LSU. That may change here soon, however. Despite the fact that Texas has a larger NIL budget and many other things that you might need to win, Jay didn't want to leave. And just 1 year later, he's a national champion for the second time. And you continue to wonder how many more numbers might they add on the Intimidator. So I did ask Jay Johnson, though, and I'll be so curious to see over time, for however long he is the coach at LSU. And my goodness, I hope it's forever, for as long as he coaches. How many more numbers he'll add to the Intimidator. And to say it like that feels a little flippant. So as to suggest that it's easy. Yeah, just go add a few more numbers to the Intimidator. But you've done it 8 times since 1991. And that's always the expectation here. And while it's the fan expectation and the administration's expectation, it's also the coach's expectation, the players' expectation. It's why Jay Johnson's here, and it's why the players come to play here, is because they want to go to Omaha and win a national championship. And so it does feel realistic and like it's going to keep happening. They got to continue to build it. But I did ask Jay why. Put some definition around it. Again, I think this answer will continue to change and evolve for as long as he's here. But why do you love LSU?
I think it's twofold. We can recruit the caliber of player that I can legitimately help them achieve their dream of being a major league player. And if you do that with enough guys, it manifests itself into you getting an opportunity to live your dream, which, was to play in Omaha. And been fortunate now to do that 4 times, and 2 times here. And the 2 times here, we have 2 national championships. And, it's kind of like at this time in my life, like that's the place I want to be, like my spot in the world. And just very grateful and thankful. And the other part I would say is the care level of so many people about what you do. At least in college baseball, it only exists at LSU. I mean, I had one of my best friends is in a similar position in sports media, like to you have. He's been in San Diego. He's in Chicago now. And he would always call college baseball a channel changer as far as you guys. Well, it's not in Baton Rouge. And I'm really thankful for that because I do think what we do is important. We got great players that are better people, and they deserve the support. Everybody's always going to get behind LSU. This 2025 team was a team that definitely warranted and deserved that support, and I'm super proud of them for that.
LSU baseball is most definitely not a channel changer. The LSU finals against Florida drew a record 2.86 million average viewers. I will be fascinated to see what this number was for LSU and Coastal Carolina in 2 pretty competitive games. Definitely not a channel changer. And it's something I've told you before. By the way, can I point? I'd love to point this out. So Spencer McLaughlin, who is the host of Locked On College Football on the Locked On Network, texted me on Monday. And at the point he texted me, he said, well, I'll read you the text directly. And by the way, Spencer lives in Oregon, for those that don't know. So Oregon's had pretty good baseball, and Oregon State obviously was in the College World Series. He texted me and said 33,000 views on a baseball natty reaction is disgustingly awesome. He's referring to the viewership on my immediate reaction postgame show for the national championship, which, by the way, at last check, it's now closer to 35,000 and climbing. I'm certain that number will keep going up. And I responded to him. I was like, yeah, that's awesome. And I'm flattered and it's fantastic. But go check out the numbers of the postgame shows that we do The 1:17 a.m. shows when we had thousands of people, 1,000 people watching live after 1 a.m. on a Friday night into Saturday morning. Go check out the post-game shows where at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night after LSU beats McNeese, we've got hundreds of people watching those shows, and they do thousands of views. That's the difference with LSU and every other program, every other baseball program. I've said it forever. It is the truly unique. There's a lot of places that love their college baseball, that have good fans, that travel and get into it. There is just no other place where it is an obsession to this level, where I can actually get numbers on sports talk radio or doing a podcast breaking down midweek pitching changes against directional school U. I got people asking me about Devin Sheeran playing summer ball. He is a Mount St. Mary's transfer who tore his ACL, didn't throw a pitch for LSU. And I got people asking me about Devin Sheeran. It's just a different level of care. And Jay Johnson knows it. And that's why he'll be here for as long as he wants to be. And it's on Scott Woodward to make sure they keep him here for as long as he wants to be. LSU wins the 8th national championship in program history. Man, it is so good to be a Tiger right now. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Also had a chance to talk to Nate Yeske, LSU's pitching coach, in a one-on-one. So be on the lookout. Going to drop that episode a little bit later on Tuesday. I guess it depends when you're watching, though, or listening to this. But thank you so much for being here with us. Thanks for making us your first listen every single day. Now for your second listen, how about you check out the Portal Show? Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes of the college football landscape. Find The Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're on podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. Be sure to let a friend know that if they love the Tigers, we got you here every single day for Locked On LSU. And make sure, if you have not yet caught our post-game show immediate reaction or the reaction show afterwards, make sure you check it out. It is Locked On LSU, your team every day.